like us to stand, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance, and if we can have our veteran in the house lead us in the prayer, in the pledge, please. Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for serving. Next, I'd just like to also indicate that proper notice has been given as required for our meeting under the ORC 121.22 rules. And next, we have, we're going to follow the agenda as closely as we can. We have our board meeting minutes from November the 16th, 2020, and November the 18th, 2020. And everyone should have received the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to read them?
Yes, we've had the opportunity, I think. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we,
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve both sets of meeting minutes from both November 16th and November 18th, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The minutes have been approved. Next, we have on our agenda a hearing regarding registered voter challenges, and I'm going to turn that over to you, Mrs. Powell.
Yes, Chuck Eckert is our registration administrator, will be presenting the challenge, and then Mr. Janis, who filed the challenge, is also present.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
You have been provided with a spreadsheet, challenge voters, November 30th, 2020. Mr. Janis filed these two challenges on November the 30th. A copy of the challenge, a registration form, and the challenge letter were sent to both on December the 1st. Mr. Janis requested that subpoenas be issued, and the subpoenas were served on December the 2nd.
So these are subpoenas for them to appear?
Yes, sir, correct.
Got it. Have we heard anything from them?
No, we have not. I have had no communication from them. We have not received any mail as returned as undeliverable. No updates to the registrations as of today.
When you say the subpoenas were served, what do we mean by that?
We received verification from the sheriff's office, and it's just issued, says that they were served.
So that means they just put them on the door, perhaps?
Correct, it's residential service.
Okay.
It's not personal service, right?
Correct.
So they just have to leave it at the residence, so they probably taped it to the front of the house, right?
Mm-hmm. As well, I'm sorry, I may have not heard you say this. Did we send any other correspondence out, like via mail?
Yes, ma'am, we did. Well, I send a challenge letter advising them of the hearing. I send a copy of the challenge that was filed by Mr. Janis, and I also include a registration update form and a postage paid return envelope addressed to me.
And when did we send the letter out?
Those were sent on December the 1st.
Okay.
The voters did, however, vote in the November 3rd election at that 4A Deer Park address, right?
That's correct. They did appear early in person here at our vote center on October 30th.
On October 30th, okay. And Mr.
Correct.
Janis in his challenge is suggesting they haven't resided there since August 24th. And then it says here September 30th,
No,
but it also says that she claims owner occupancy credit at Loisville Lane in Anderson Township since September 30th. But there hasn't been an updated registration filed or anything, right?
No, sir.
That's just the allegation made by Mr. Janis, and we'll hear from him in a minute, it sounds like.
Any other questions?
What do we know independently about that Anderson Township address? Anything from the board, or just Mr. Janis's allegation at this point? Not to say that's true or not true, just trying to understand where we are. We don't have any information about the Anderson Township address other than what Mr. Janis has suggested. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. Mr. Janis on the challenge indicates an 1836 Loisville Lane. I do not believe there is an 1836 Loisville Lane. I believe it should be 1836 Lois View.
So with it being a guess the address is not correct.
I believe Mr. Janis can
Okay,
provide
Can provide
additional
that?
information on that, yes.
okay.
So we have no reason, our mail has never come back as undeliverable. The only way we're even looking at these is because of his challenge, right?
That is correct, yes.
So if it was mailed out on December the 2nd,
On the 1st, December 1st.
on the 1st,
Yes.
today is December the 8th. So mail delivery, as we know, is not as prompt as it has been in the past years. So if there was a weekend in there, that's a delay as well to where we are today. I'm just trying to, so then if an address, if the person has relocated, then it has to be forwarded to the new address.
If there is a forwarding
Right.
order on file, yes, ma'am.
Right, okay, so that takes more time. Correct?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, Mr. Janis, if you could step to the podium, please, and share what information you have. Thank you.
Madam Chair, perhaps we ought to swear in this witness.
Mm-hmm. Who's going to swear? Thank you. Mr. Janis.
A communication many months ago from a relative of one of the people I am challenging. I became aware that they may be relocating. When I asked the relative if they would be relocating somewhere else in Deer Park, Ohio, they said no, out of the area. Subsequent to that communication, I was informed by some area citizenry that there was a for sale sign in front of the residence of 4125 St. John's Terrace, Deer Park, Ohio. Went and drove down that street, and that notification and that sign for sale was there. Followed up on my own, subsequent to the election, using the information, for example, from this office's registration rolls, and made available to your clerk secretary what I call Exhibit A, B, and C. Exhibit C is the registration for Deer Park 4A, which that falls within. And this was printed off by me on Saturday, November 28th, 2020. About halfway down on the left goes Hickey, Jenna Lee, Alexandra, 4125 St. John's Terrace, voting from that address in the general election, November 2020, I'm sorry. Following down, Michael C. Hickey, 4125 St. John's Terrace, voting from that address in Deer Park, Ohio, in the 2020 November fall general election. Following down the next one, Michael Anthony Clace, or Kloss, 4125 St. John's Terrace. He voted from that address in the fall November 2020 general election. My belief, based on public records, Michael Anthony Kloss is the current resident and new resident of 4125 St. John's Terrace, Deer Park, Ohio. On Exhibit A, which is from the Hamilton County, Ohio Auditor's Office, which I labeled in the lower right corner, Exhibit A, front page is a picture of 4125 St. John's Terrace, Deer Park, Ohio. From personal knowledge, the picture shows a dark black, my knowledge unknown make, SUV, and that does or did belong to that family when they lived at that address. Second page from the county auditor was the talks about owner occupancy credit. It's listed as yes. Go up a little bit, it says owner name and address, Klaus, Michael, and Angie. And the mailing address, Michael, Klaus, and Angie, 4125 St. John's Terrace, Park, Ohio. Third page, called transfer history. Top one, sale date August 24th, 2020. Previous owner, Michael C. Hickey and Jenna Lee A. Hickey. Current owner, Michael Kloss and Angie Kloss. Exhibit B shows a picture of where I believe Michael Hickey and Jenna Lee Hickey currently reside, which is that this is according to the county auditor. Picture shows on the front 1836 Lewis U. Lane, residence in Anderson Township, Ohio. Second page on the right column, tax credit value summary. Fourth notation down, owner occupancy credit, yes. Third page, transfer history. Sale date, September 30th, 2020. Previous owner, Andrew C. Sorensen Sr. and Elizabeth L. Sorensen. Current owner, Michael C. Hickey and Jenna Lee A. Hickey. My understanding and belief of the Ohio law states that a person can only vote from the residence of either which they reside or they intend to return. Based on the exhibits A, B, and C, I believe I've demonstrated that the Hickeys at one time did live in that address at Deer Park, Ohio, and for some time have lived at the address I just described in Anderson Township, Ohio. I indicated on my challenge, the selector voted from this address in the 2020 Ohio Fall General Election, although he and also she have not resided at this address since August 24, 2020. He or she claims owner occupancy credit at 1836 Loisville Lane, Anderson Township since September 30, 2020. He and she voted from address at which they do not reside. As a paralegal, I was taught by lawyers and that a person can only legally claim owner occupancy at one residence at a time. I contacted the director of this office and the assistant director prior to my filing the challenge. I made this kind of question them about this issue. My knowledge in the past when I've been before you and doing voter registration challenges, I may be wrong, but from my recall, no one that I'm aware of voted prior to me challenging them in a voter registration challenge and brought it to your attention. Me, this is one in which they voted from an address which they have not resided for some time. As I recall, the last date to change or correct an address to vote in the 2020 Ohio Fall General Election was roughly the first week in October 2020. Then I believe, even if they don't make that in time, they can always vote a provisional ballot, and then I believe they have 10 days to bring the correct legal documentation to the board for verification and show they moved. Based on the testimony today by Mr. Eckert, Director Poland, it appears to me that they have made no attempt to correct their registration address. My concern is if people are allowed to vote from addresses which they do not vote, that would be inappropriate, illegal, and improper for future voters in our county. Based on the action that there is no form to my knowledge to allow for people that voted but didn't change their address, I filed a challenge of right to vote office on November 30th, 2020, as Mr. Eckert said, and also requested the subpoenas. Since Mr. Eckert indicated there's been no communication, no return of mail, they were subpoenaed, and the director of this office have said residential service. I believe they've been given ample notification to appear here before you today for a public hearing. So I guess I'm asking for you to uphold my challenges, and also I'd like I'd like to hear your opinion on what should be done with people who vote from addresses at which they do not reside. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Janis.
Mr. Janis,
Any
can I ask you a
questions?
couple questions? Yes, thank you. In addition to the for sale sign, did you by any chance see any activity that would indicate that they were moving trucks or anything like that, or? It's okay, just asking. And then, would you mind, for purposes of the record, naming the relative that you talked to?
Don C. Gavin, he still resides and votes from 4125 St. John Terrace, Deer Park, Ohio. He's the former member of the Deer Park,
Yeah, I
Ohio
was gonna say.
Council. And he's also the father of Jenna Lee Hickey.
Oh, that's his daughter?
Yes.
No.
So in the interest of full disclosure, since I have known Mr. Gavin, I would say socially and professionally for many years, and when it hasn't already gotten back to him, that may sever our social or professional relationship. But in my opinion, it would not be ethical or proper for me to override this type of issue and forget about it just because of a social or professional relationship.
Thank you. I have a question for Chuck while I've got the floor. Chuck, I just want to make sure I wrote one date down properly. Either you or Sherry said this, but these people voted absentee in person here at the board on October 24th. Is that right?
It was October 30th.
October 30th. Thank you. Okay.
Correct.
Glad I asked. I have no other questions at this point.
Okay, look, Mr. Fox, you have any questions?
No, just a comment. Is from what Mr. Janis has presented here, it appears that we have closing dates on the house in Deer Park and also the house in Anderson Township. What we don't know for certain is at what point did they actually move and take up residence in Anderson Township, because there are times where that move takes place at some point after the closing date. Clearly, they voted here at the Board of Elections after the closing date in Anderson. I'm personally inclined to uphold Mr. Janis's challenge. I don't know necessarily that we need to go beyond that, but that's my
Okay.
thought.
Thank you. Mr. Gerhart, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
I was kind of thinking in the same area that you were, Mr. Fox, in that, you know, when they closed on one home, how do we know that they actually moved the next day? And sometimes it may take a person time to redevelop or upgrade the particular new place that they're going. And so do we have any evidence that there was any occupancy in there before when they voted? You know, they could have been in transition. That's just one of the things. I remember what it's like. You can close on a house, but that doesn't mean you necessarily move in within a short distance of time. Most people do have to go in and clean and scrub and do all kinds of things to improve the new resident that they're moving to. So do we have any information at all that verifies that they were actually living at the residence in Anderson Township?
What's on the documents I presented today, the public records and the owner occupancy credit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And at least the man Michael Kloss voted from the residence in Deer Park.
Mm-hmm.
And to my knowledge, he is not related to the Hickeys. So
Mm-hmm.
I have personal knowledge of when they may have moved. No, but to me, I'm rather skeptical that Mr. Klaus would vote from a address which he is his new home when the Hickeys are still living there.
Mm-hmm.
So to be clear, Mr. Kloss is registered at the Deer Park address now.
That's correct. He's registered and he voted in this November election from the Deer Park address.
Just by, not that it really matters so much, but was there any municipal election in Deer Park this year? Yeah, I thought so.
Mostly every 2 years from a majority there.
Mr. Janus, did you state that the car that's sitting in that driveway belongs to the Hickeys?
One time, to my knowledge, it did.
And,
The picture, and it doesn't, just in the lower right, and I can't read what it says, that's normally when the picture is taken. I'm not up off the top of my head how often the county auditor has someone take pictures of properties.
Right,
oh, okay.
So that was,
that's an old picture.
to my knowledge, and the Hickeys would have been living at that address when that picture was taken with that vehicle there. Law director said, I'm not disputing.
Is the vehicle still there?
No, I mean, in 2018 is when the picture was taken.
Right.
So that vehicle, to my knowledge, belonged to the Hickeys, at least in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it was reported to me by others that that vehicle was still parked in that driveway 2020, let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess I
To
just,
answer your question, and Mr.
mm-hmm.
I would concur. Do I have personal knowledge of, and I guess what Mr. Trientafilo said, moving vans or whatever, did I happen to be going by there when any of that may have happened? No, I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate your candor on that, but I just wanted to ask it.
Madam Chair, if I might.
Yes.
Mr. Eckert, we're still in the process of trying to communicate with these people, correct? Or have we exhausted all of our attempts? We've subpoenaed them and we've sent letters, right?
That's correct.
The letters may still be in transit due to forwarding, so, I mean, while we can speculate that they may not live here, and it looks as though they probably don't, is it premature to challenge them at this point? I mean, I know we have additional hearings on anomalies next month, correct?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And this may be an anomaly situation in and of itself, but there's no election between now and then. So should we allow the process to continue before we challenge them is my question.
Well, Mr. Gerhardt, I also support your suggestion because I was thinking when we were looking at the dates, when the initial concern was raised, and then the postal service date that we dropped it at the post office, and then also knowing that if you're forwarding the address, it can take even longer. And if there's a weekend involved in any of that, then you've lost a couple of days. And I think in all fairness, not just to Mr. Janus, but to these particular occupants, I think that we could look at putting this on the agenda for our meeting in January.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What's the burden of proof here? Is it clear and convincing, or probably clear and convincing?
What did you state?
I asked him what the burden of proof was, what his burden of proof was before this board should find that the challenge is well taken. My personal view is that the challenge is well taken. I think Caleb was suggesting similarly that that's met, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounded like maybe the burden had been met in your mind to at least uphold the challenge.
Yes.
My view would be, and again, I'm not, if you guys want to continue with the January, that's fine. My view would be to rule on the challenge, table that, and then take this and put it in our anomaly stack and then see what comes out of the anomaly process. I just want to go a step further and say, again, Caleb, we probably slightly disagree. I'm not suggesting that we turn any of these folks over. If it is what it appears to be, which is that these people moved, probably forgot, decided close enough, I'm going to go vote at the Board of Elections. That's just speculation by me, but that's human nature to do something like that. You're in the midst of a move and you just come back and you vote here and just to protect yourself. So I'm not suggesting they did anything criminal, but I do think it's important to put them in the anomaly stack to alert them to the idea that thanks to Mr. Janus, frankly, we've identified what is an anomalous kind of act here, and that is to have voted here on October the 30th, a full month after you closed on a new house in Anderson Township, and still assert your Deer Park address. Because it seems to me that's what the facts are suggesting here. Again, is it possible they held over on their old house while their new house was being remodeled? All those things are a possibility. We would know those things if they were here. The problem is we served the subpoena on a house that they presumably moved out of at the end of September, and that's not our fault, but that's just the last address we have. So I would think that we stick them in the anomaly. I'm prepared to vote on the challenge, but not so much so that I'll be upset if we continue it. We vote on the challenge, and then we simply kick this over to the anomaly question and perhaps ask our anomaly investigation to contact these folks at their Anderson address. I think they should know that we know. B, I think it's incumbent upon us just to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of the process, and we send the signal to anybody who's paying attention that, you have an opportunity to register. These people could have registered to vote, a couple days after they moved, and I understand the realities of all that. But anyway, there was a way for them to do this and do it right at their new address, assuming that the facts as they appear. So that's my view.
Well, and I also would like to add to that, we're in a pandemic. So anything that anyone is attempting to do, if they're moving from one location to the other, there's going to be a pause,
Yeah.
trying to get supplies. You're restricted a lot on your activity, as well as if you're bringing in anyone from the outside to help clean up or spruce up the place. So I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt as human beings, and understanding any of us who've moved. Many times we know when we close, we don't move in the next day. We're in there scrubbing and cleaning and trying to make it our place. So I feel that we should table this and put it on the agenda for the January meeting. That gives ample time for communication to have been completed or not completed, and then we can discuss it and make a decision there. And I applaud Mr. Janus for the work that he continues to do in his community with identifying these particular issues and concerns. But I think the time is of essence right here, from my perspective, and I just think we should table it and put it on the agenda for January.
Are we under any time restriction? We've done the part we needed to do timely, we've done, right, Dave? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The only reason I want to do the challenge tonight is I have to be reminded of all these facts in a month. And I understand it pretty well right now, but anyway, I'm fine.
So
If it's the consensus of the board to table it, I'm not going to get in the way of that.
I'm certain, as detailed as Mr. Janus is, he can give us an update and any review
enough.
that
Yep.
we may need.
And it's also my position, though, that we do add this to our list of anomalies. How the rest of the board feels about that. And again, I'm with you, Madam Chair, in the sense that even, for instance, like if you're charged with an expired license plate, the courts are being relaxed because they know how hard it is to get to the BMV, and I understand all those things. So I'm not looking to be difficult, but again, our obligation is to follow the law, and to the extent that we put them in the anomaly stack and let these folks know, hopefully it gives them an opportunity to update their voter registration and do this the right way. And then it's a win for everyone after that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
And I appreciate your being flexible as well. I'm thinking out of the box a little bit, but still staying within the norm and the law. So do we need a motion to table this until our meeting in?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. Mr. Janus, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your work.
Would the board like staff to also send a packet to the new address in Anderson?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Next, on our agenda is the November 2020 Presidential General Election Anomaly Report. Sherry, are you going to give us that report?
Yes, you'll find in your packet a spreadsheet that lists 120 voters where we believe it appears some sort of anomaly occurred. Most of these involve voters who requested and returned a vote by mail ballot and then also appeared at the polls and cast a provisional ballot. In the time period since we certified the election, staff has been able to basically just compile this list as well as supporting documentation, but we haven't had the time to thoroughly review or contact the voters. So we'd like to take the next month to do that.
Okay.
And then bring those findings to you at your next meeting on January 12th.
And that would be, give you and
Sally, yes, the
Sally
deputy
an
director.
opportunity to review these and then give us the report.
Right, as well as contact the voters.
Gotcha. I think that's fair enough. And you
Yeah,
know, and you
no,
have to look at the
yeah.
fact as well, you know, we've got, our staff are trying to survive in between the holidays for all the hours they put in, all the overtime, so they need to take a little time to take a deep breath and inhale, and that's probably why Sally's not here today, and it'll be your turn next week.
That's
hopefully.
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm, based on that, then I'll make a motion that we table the anomaly report and for further investigation by the staff and have the staff report back to the board at our next regular meeting.
I'll second that motion, but I just, having looked through this list, the bulk of these are people who returned an AV ballot. Most cases, but not all, the ballot came back very late, and they showed up and voted. And it's not uncommon for people to do that if they're not certain if their AV ballot's going to get here in time. But I did note down here that there's one that kind of jumps out at me. Somebody who apparently now lives in New York voted an AV ballot here. I'd be curious if they also voted in New York.
Yes, and that is definitely, will be part of staff's research. We haven't been able to get that far, but that is correct. Since we do have the address that the ballot was mailed to in New York, we can contact the Board of Elections in that county. And
Which number voter is that, Caleb?
It's the
I'm just not
very
saying.
last
Very
voter.
last one.
That's 118.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, yeah, voter number 118.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Okay, I just couldn't find it. Thank you.
And then we also have a case, the very last one, somebody who voted here in Hamilton County, but also in Butler County. And in that case, I'd be curious if both votes count, because it appears to me that may well be what happened.
I don't believe so. I believe this was a voter who cast a provisional ballot in Hamilton County.
All right.
I believe this voter was registered in Butler County and then cast a provisional ballot in Hamilton County. You know, as part of the provisional review, we contact the county in which they were registered in, and if they voted in that county, then we don't count the provisional. But I do want to do some follow-up with Butler County so that we can gather the materials that show that this voter voted in Butler County.
But in that case, the provisional envelope would register them in Hamilton County. Is that
That's correct.
Okay.
So that's some of the work that, the follow-up that both of you will be doing.
Correct.
Between now and the next meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
I think I made a motion. It's been seconded, right?
It's been seconded, yes.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone
Aye.
opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. And when you look at the anomaly, and we look at how many votes were cast, period, on that day.
Right, 120 out of 434,000.
Right. Amazing. It's not bad at all. Okay, next on our agenda is proposed schedule for 2021 board meeting schedules. And I'm going to make an assumption that we're going to meet on the same Tuesday of every month, second Tuesday.
That's correct. For the most part, it's the second Tuesday of every month, except for the months that you have elections, which we anticipate to be May, August, and November of 2021. This is for planning purposes.
Okay. And then you're going to mail us the hard copy, so.
I'll email it to you as well,
And
yes.
then that, also we needed to do this so that we can post it on our website as well.
That's correct.
Okay. Any question about the schedules?
Now, do we have to adopt it with a motion?
Dave, do you know if a
Probably
motion is
shouldn't we? 'Cause
necessary?
it's a public meeting.
Um,
Yeah. I'll move that we adopt the regular meeting schedule for 2021 as recommended by the board staff.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is personnel policy, pay in lieu of vacation leave.
Yes.
Sally, can you give us an update there, please? Or
Yes, in your
Sherry,
packet,
sorry.
that's okay. In your packet, you have a list of those employees who are requesting the pay in lieu of leave per the board's policy.
This is something we do every year, right? And it's been cleared by the prosecutor's office and consistent with our personnel policies, right?
That's correct. It is part of the board's personnel policy, and that was reviewed and approved by the prosecutor's office several years ago.
Yeah, these, again, just so I'm going to support this plainly. This is, again, these are the 4 salaried employees here who put in more than their fair share of time. We all have seen that, especially in this last cycle. So it's completely appropriate in my mind to pay in lieu of leave per policy. And again, never more so than this past year, given the amount of work and effort and all the good things that we saw happen in this election. So I'm prepared to move to approve this pay in lieu of leave per our board policy.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? And I would just like to say, I think this is the least that we could do.
Agreed. I agree.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Next is an update on our early vote center. Sherry?
Yes. As the board had directed staff, we had conversations with our landlord as well as county administration in the budget office about keeping the early vote annex as in a more permanent lease agreement. As everyone knows, it was a tremendous success in having that additional space. We got the go-ahead from county administration to proceed. So in your packet is a resolution that would give Sally and I the authority to enter into a lease agreement. This would be the term would be February 1st of 2021 through December 31st of 2026 at the same rate per square foot as that we currently pay for this facility. It also would include a tenant improvement allowance for the new facility. And then once the board adopts the resolution, we will send notification, what we're required to do to the county commissioners.
I'm prepared to move to adopt the resolution number 2020-006. I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution.
I'll second that motion. I think we all understand that having the additional space for early voting was a tremendous benefit this year, and it's worth preserving that opportunity for the future.
And I would also like to indicate as well that it's going to be a great utilization of space that will be used by the county as well for any large hearings or meetings that they may have. I know in the past they've used this location, but now they can have a little more flexibility with the other location.
That's correct. The intent is that other county agencies may use the facility when we're not in an early voting cycle.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Do we need to read the resolution into the record?
No.
No? Okay. I'm just used to reading them into the minutes. Sorry. Okay. All right. All those in favor, we already voted on it. Thank you. That motion carries. And next on our agenda, we have the Hamilton County STAR Program, which, again, we reward and give kudos to those individuals who just have done gone above and beyond the call of duty and survived and continued to work here. So Sherry, I'm going to turn it over to you, please.
Yes, we actually have 5 employees, full-time employees, that reached milestones in the year 2020. And I believe 2 of those employees are present here this morning, and you should have pins for them. But we have Patty Siciliano, Colleen Ossenbeck, Vince Lucida, Terry Zins, and Mary Beth Faring. And I believe Patty and Colleen are present this morning,
Okay.
if you wanted to.
I'd like to call Colleen Ossenbeck up to the floor first for outstanding, as you said, 15 years of service, uninterrupted.
Yes, Colleen is our receptionist. Colleen does a tremendous job in dealing with the public, not only in person, but also on the phones. She's extremely helpful and gets them the information and what they need as quickly as possible. She also coordinates our election night workers, so all of the truck commanders, ballot guards, early pickup guards. So that's a big coordination effort, and Colleen's just always willing to go wherever and help out whatever department needs. So we really appreciate her service.
Absolutely. And she's
Colleen.
a smiling face when you walk in that front door.
Yes, she is.
So I'd like to present this to you, and if you could get a picture, could we all kind of still keeping social distance, please? Okay. Thank you. And we have our next warrior, Patty Scalino, and who's going to introduce? Did I mispronounce her name? Oh, my God. Who's going to
I
talk
feel your
about
pain.
her? I'll say a few things about Patty. Thank you.
Patty Siciliano has been with the Board of Elections for 25 years. Filings and the filing deadlines, filings with candidates and local options, and helped out in the section, we're helping out with AV and all of that. Hiring
Oh, my.
position in February.
Mm.
So I'm going to miss her, and
She's not going to really retire, you know. She's going to try this. Congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you. She's going to retire. Yeah, I believe it when I see it. Well, you can't go many places right now, so.
Seems to me the
Great.
presidential years ought to be like dog years. You know?
I
They get
know.
7 years credit
Absolute-
for every presidential.
And survived it.
Yep.
Okay, any other business?
I just wanted to report to the board that staff completed the audit of the 2020 November election last week, and happy to report it was 100% a match. The hand count 100% matched the electronic count.
Okay.
Is that so?
So, yes,
How many votes roughly?
a little under 22,000 ballots.
So 22,000 ballots were randomly selected in Hamilton County, counted by hand, compared to the electronic result and matched to the vote.
To the
Not
vote.
one off.
Not one off, 100% match.
That's
Can you
incredible.
say that again? Because I think everyone needs to hear that. We
Yeah, I
hear
mean,
all
that-
of this all over the United States about all this false news and everything, and yet we, again, have excelled to prove them all wrong, that it's safe to vote and safe to vote here and
Yeah.
everywhere else. I'm not just going to
I think you've covered it. I think you're right, though. It's an important point to make, that we hand-counted 22,000 votes, and the paper number matched the electronic number to the vote, not one vote off, which, again, goes to the integrity of the system that we have here in Hamilton County, and I think we're to be applauded for it, that's all.
Amen.
I concur.
I absolutely agree with that. Okay, thank you.
Also
news.
wanted to mention that, of course, we're unable to have a holiday party this year because of COVID. We are planning to do something for staff, perhaps one afternoon the week before Christmas of box lunches, maybe have a reverse raffle. So we won't be having our traditional holiday party, but Sally and I and the administrators are working on something to do for staff the week before Christmas, and we'll circulate that to all of you in an email once we finalize the plans.
Make it fun, yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anything else?
Not for me, Shirley?
I do have just one quick question. I know we had, a couple weeks ago, we had at least 3 positive reports on, amongst our employees with COVID. One of those, I believe, wound up in the hospital. I haven't heard any update on his condition, but I was curious if we'd had any additional positive results here amongst our board member or board staff members.
We have not had any, luckily, any additional reports. When we had those 3 employees that tested positive right the weekend before Thanksgiving, as you're aware, we had all staff except for Sally and I, and I believe 2 others, come in the week of Thanksgiving, that Monday and Tuesday, so we had everyone else stay home and had a deep clean of the facility done during that time. And luckily, since then, we've not had any additional positive reports.
Good.
The employee that was hospitalized is still hospitalized.
No, that's not good.
Right.
And then the other thing I just wanted to comment on, the audit shows that our election went very smoothly here in Hamilton County. And that's a credit to the system that we have and the hard work of all of our staff members, the people who work so hard to carry out elections and do so accurately and fairly. And I think that there are people all over the country in other states and other election operations who do exactly the same thing. And I'm just particularly troubled by the amount of attacks that are taking place right now on the people who do all that hard work and do their best to carry out free and fair elections. And it just really bothers me that that's taking place. It's not happening here in Ohio, fortunately, but it's certainly happening in other places, and I just wanted to make note of that.
I appreciate your comments because, I am just so sick and tired of picking up the news and hearing that election workers are being threatened and their personal information is put out public and their homes are being picketed and stuff hung up on trees and stuff like that. It's violent, and it's got to end, but I want our workers to know that we support you 100%. And you'd have to be here, and you don't have to be here. You could see the outcomes from the election, but the work that they do so diligently is so good, and it's excellent. And I just think it's a sorry day that when you have our staff, election workers across the United States, being threatened and harassed, and even the boards. Some of us were threatened out there. But we were strong enough and worked together so that it just, we didn't let it take us down. So I just thank you guys. I can't say it enough. I've said it multiple times. And one of the things, Kenny was going to be here this morning from the Secretary of State, and I asked him if he had any thoughts or comments he'd like to share. And he just said, from the Secretary of State, we've done a massive, fantastic job. We already knew that, but it's kind of nice to hear it when it comes from the top as well. That's all I have to say. Anything else? No?
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would, this being the last meeting of what has turned out to be one of the more interesting years in so many ways. But I think back to the preparations that you all were planning a year ago and what happened in the interim to upend those, I don't know that I encountered one employee that found himself or herself unable to do their job. You handled it with grace and aplomb, and it's really remarkable. Again, we're the public face, but at a time, as our chair and fellow member, Mr. Fox, commented about negative comments about elections nationally, this state handled it well, and this county especially so. And I could not be more proud than to be associated with this organization. And if it weren't for all of you, we would be under the spotlight and being criticized nationally and internationally. And so thank you for not allowing that to happen to us. It makes our holiday season that much more special. But I just want to thank all of you, wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I sure hope that 2021 is a really boring election year. And that we soon rid ourselves of these masks and we can see each other's smiling faces again. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next year.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to everyone. So I just don't list them all, I just say happy holidays. Enjoy the time with your family, but stay safe and practice social distancing and wearing your mask. You know, if you get bored with one type of mask, diversify it and get something that, mask that kind of tells us about your personality, and move forward, and we'll see you in January.
Madam Chair, I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? None but the devil. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
So much for 2020.